How could you be so careless? You've ruined everything we worked for.
You know, there are moments in life that hit you with such force. They actually split your timeline, everything before and everything after. For Richard Caldwell, the moment came on a Tuesday night in Chicago, outside Morton's Steakhouse. And it was wrapped up in the form of a 19-year-old girl sitting in the rain. Richard Caldwell, the name you see on every tower downtown, the man who built Caldwell Properties from nothing. He'd walked past thousands of lost souls on the streets, dismissing them, compartmentalizing them, because that's what a successful person learns to do in this city, right? You build walls. But when he saw her face, Zara Williams, hunched against that cold, wet brick, his entire world just stopped. Zara, bless her heart, was just trying to survive. Her cardboard sign, barely legible under the street lamp, summed up the whole tragedy of her young life. Please, just food. God bless. She'd been out of the foster system for 13 brutal months now. Ever since her 18th birthday, the day the state gives you a trash bag of your things and a pat on the head, saying, "Good luck, kid." She was running on empty, her stomach cramped, her worn jacket offering absolutely no resistance to the bitter Chicago drizzle. She hadn't eaten in 3 days. 3 days. Try to imagine that. Richard froze. His expensive Italian loafers splashed into a puddle, and his leather briefcase, the one with the gold latch, the one that carried the secrets of his empire, had slipped right out of his fingers and hit the pavement. He just stood there, staring. Those eyes, Zara's eyes, even in desperation they held this gentle, unwavering quality. "My God," he whispered, the name of a memory he had buried for 12 years. "It's impossible." Because what Richard saw wasn't a homeless woman. He saw an 8-year-old child, a memory so terrifying and so essential to his survival. He had built his entire identity around it. A child who, with one quick, brave, impossible act, had saved him from certain deaths. Back when he was a mess, a reckless 30-something entangled in dangerous deals he had no business touching. But could it really be her? The years had been cruel. The face was thinner, older, harder. He had to know. He was wrestling with this ghost from his past, while Zara was just wrestling with the present moment. Just make it through today, baby girl. Tomorrow might be different. That was Miss Johnson's mantra, her last good foster mom, the one who taught her to say please and thank you, even when the world gave her nothing to be thankful for. Zara held on to that, holding the small wooden cross necklace that was the last physical link to her real mother. She used that simple code to keep going. Then, the universe decided to make a dramatic entrance. A commotion sliced through the rain. Right across the street, outside the Obsidian Grill, an even pricier steakhouse. A sharp cry, then that sickening, hollow thud of something heavy hitting the concrete. A wealthy, well-dressed older gentleman. Richard would soon learn it was his own uncle. Robert Caldwell had slipped on the wet curb. His head struck the pavement with a sound that made Zara's stomach seize up. He lay motionless, and the blood started spreading immediately. A dark, pulsing stain mixing with the gutter water. Chaos. Absolute and immediate, but not a chaos of action, a chaos of paralysis. The valets froze in their crisp uniforms. The expensive patrons recoiled, pulling out their phones to record, to call, to look concerned. But nobody, and I mean nobody, moved toward the man. Zara's street instinct was screaming at her. Stay away, Zara. You know the drill, right? A homeless black teenager, blood, a rich white man. The narrative always goes sideways for the kid on the street. Security would pin the blame. The police would ask questions she couldn't afford to answer. But Zara couldn't just watch someone die. That was her one terrible, beautiful flaw. The rain was escalating, hitting the street like buckshot. Robert was soaking, his condition worsening by the second. Zara touched her cross, felt the worn grooves, and Miss Johnson's voice echoed one last time. When someone needs help, you help. That's what good people do, baby girl. Even when it's hard. She jammed her cardboard sign into her backpack and bolted. She tore across 4 lanes of traffic, ignoring the murderous honks skidding to a halt next to the body. "Excuse me," she snapped at the frozen valet staff. "Has anyone checked if he's breathing? We called 911. Great, but we need to help him now." She dropped to her knees. That stone-cold pavement bit right through her thin jeans, soaking them instantly. The head wound was a mess, a gash near his temple that just wouldn't clot. She leaned close. "Sir, can you hear me? Help is coming." Around her, the crowd was restless, judgmental. The security guard, a big guy with a cheap plastic raincoat, finally lumbered over. "Miss, you really shouldn't be touching him. You could cause liability." Zara cut him off, her voice firm despite her shivering teeth. "He's somebody's father. He's somebody's whole world. I am not leaving him alone." She looked at Robert's pale face and made the choice. She ripped off her only jacket, the pathetic thin barrier against the cold, and slid it gently under his bleeding head. Then she tore open her own worn t-shirt, her only shirt. Minuan pressed the fabric hard against the wound. "Someone get towels from the restaurant," she commanded the onlookers, her voice ringing with authority. "And call 911 again. Tell them we have an unconscious man with severe head trauma." The security guard tried again, his tone dripping with patronizing worry. Miss, you should step back. You could contaminate the scene. What if he has an infection? Zara finally looked him in the eye. Soaked, shivering, covered in blood and rain. Contaminate the scene. Sir, I am trying to save his life. That's the contamination I'm aiming for. She was soaked in seconds, her thin body fighting a losing battle against hypothermia. But she didn't move. She kept the pressure constant. The knowledge from Miss Patterson's first aid classes flooding back. Head wounds bleed excessively. Yes. But this was a terrifying volume. A restaurant manager, finally shaken into action, rushed out with clean towels and a blanket. Zara took the towels gratefully, replacing her shirt, but kept the blanket mostly draped over Robert. She maintained the pressure, blocking the worst of the driving rain with her own thin, shivering body. Finally, the distant wail of the sirens. It took 15 minutes of pure, raw courage. But the paramedics burst through the crowd, parting the gawkers like the Red Sea. The lead paramedic dropped beside Zara, not even glancing at her appearance. What happened? Zara.com/steady reported her findings like a pro. Slip and fall. Head struck concrete at 9:47 p.m. Unconscious for 15 minutes. Pulse weak but steady. I've been maintaining pressure on what looks like a temporal laceration. No obvious neck trauma, but I haven't moved him. The paramedic paused, his eyes widening. Are you a nurse, Miss? No, Zara said, finally stepping back, the adrenaline draining away, leaving her shaky and cold. Just someone who cares. The next morning, Zara made the 2-hour walk to Northwestern Memorial. She couldn't shake the need to know. Inside the hospital was a world of marble and quiet affluence. The receptionist looked her up and down, the same blood-stained clothes, the torn backpack. But then she softened. Oh, you're the girl from the news. Room 347. Robert Caldwell, Richard's uncle, was sitting up, looking bruised but alive. He was surrounded by his family. When he saw Zara, his face broke into an enormous smile. My angel, come in. Everyone. This is Zara Williams, the young woman who saved my life. The family was overwhelmingly grateful, a little surprised by her appearance, but genuinely thankful. Robert reached for a thick envelope. Zara, I want you to have this. It's not nearly enough, but please take it. It was more money than she had seen in months. It was freedom. It was a new start. Mr. Caldwell, Zara said, shaking her head, tears welling up. I can't take that. My foster mom always said, you don't save lives for money. You do it because it's right. They pressed her, offered her jobs, apartments, anything, but she refused, holding fast to that single, unshakable principle. Robert finally relented, pressing a $20 bill, his business card, and the expensive black umbrella into her hand. Then you take this, he insisted, and if you ever need anything, anything at all, you call that number. Zara accepted the umbrella. The only thing she felt didn't compromise her core belief. She walked out of the hospital, unaware that Robert had immediately called his nephew, Richard Caldwell, raving about the girl who refused his money. The girl with the wooden cross, unaware that 40 blocks away, Richard, watching the news coverage one last time, had already made his decision. He wasn't just searching for a brave girl anymore. He was searching for his destiny. The world was already talking about Zara, the angel on the street, but the real story was happening in the cold, sleek corner office of Richard Caldwell. He had the photo, the file from his investigator, Jack Morrison, confirming the link to Lincoln Park 12 years ago. He knew it was time. He put on his best suit, walked out of the Sterling Tower, and drove himself to the rundown part of town where Zara was staying. He found her outside the community center, volunteering again, a sharp contrast, his tailored wool and her worn military canvas. Excuse me, he said, walking slowly, respectfully. Are you Zara Williams? She tensed, cautious as always. Yes, sir. Am I in trouble? No, Richard whispered, his voice thick with emotion, his eyes locked on the wooden cross. No, you're not. I need to ask you something. He pulled out the worn, creased photo, protected by plastic. Is this you? Zara stared, herself, age 8, the cross identical. How do you have this picture? Richard's voice started to tremble. Do you remember Lincoln Park, 12 years ago? Do you remember a man with a broken-down car, 3 other men surrounding him, and the final floodgate broke? Zara remembered the fear, the Buick, the angry men, the terrifying gleam of the knife. I remember, she whispered. I got scared for you. I thought they were going to kill you. Richard nodded, tears finally, openly streaming down his face. Now tell me what you did. I kicked over the big metal trash can, she said, the memory crystal clear, the sound echoing in the silence of the street. Clang, and I yelled, help! Someone help the man! I wanted everyone to come out and see. They ran, Richard confirmed, wiping his eyes with an expensive handkerchief. They ran because of an 80-year-old girl. You came over, and you were shaking, and your mother was furious with you, but she walked me to safety. And then you, Zara, you gave me your church money, $3.50. You looked poor, Zara confessed. Your car was so old and broken. I was poor, Richard corrected, fiercely. Not in money. No, but in soul. I was a man making dirty deals, taking risks, consumed by greed and winning. You caught me at the absolute lowest moment of my life. I went home that night, looked in the mirror, and realized a child had more courage than I did. That night, Zara, that $3.50, that changed everything. I stopped the deals. I started building Caldwell properties the right way. Every success I've had since then, it's because I've been trying to make the brave little girl proud. He looked at her, his voice absolute. I have been searching for my daughter for 12 years. Your daughter? Yes, Richard said, his voice stronger now, more confident. You saved my life, Zara, and this week, you saved my Uncle Robert's life too. He told me everything. You stayed with him in the rain. You gave up your jacket, just like you did for me. He paused, taking a breath that held the weight of a lifetime. I never married, never had children. I know what I've been missing. He knelt down on the dirty concrete, completely ignoring his expensive suit, looking her right in the eye. Zara Williams, I want to adopt you as my daughter. Legally, officially, completely. I want you to be a Caldwell. The words were so foreign, so impossible. Zara actually thought she was starving, hallucinating. Sir, I'm 19. I'm nobody special. You are the most special person I have ever met, Richard insisted. Age doesn't matter. You will always be my daughter. I want to give you the life you deserve, a home, a family, an education. I want to walk you across the stage at your college graduation. He presented the adoption papers. What would you want in return? She asked, the only thing she knew how to ask. Nothing, Richard said, smiling. Nothing but the chance to be your dad. He started laying out the future private tutors, the best universities, Harvard, Yale, Northwestern. You said you wanted to be a nurse or a doctor. Help kids like you. Yes, she whispered, her dream feeling suddenly fragile, real. Then we will do more than that, Richard declared, his eyes blazing with purpose. I've created the Zara Williams Foundation. $500 million to start, focused entirely on fixing the crisis of kids aging out of foster care. And I want you to be the co-director. You have the heart, the wisdom, and the lived experience to lead this change. Zara's legs gave out, and she sank onto the curb, staring at the sheer scale of the vision. $500 million, changing the entire system. Richard knelt beside her. I don't know how to be somebody's father, he admitted. And you don't know how to be a daughter. But we will figure it out. Together. That's what families do. He held out the pen. What do you say, Zara? Will you let me be your dad? Zara looked at him, at his tear-streaked, hopeful face. She took the pen, her hands trembling violently. She touched her mother's wooden cross, felt its warmth against her chest. And she knew. Mama always said family would find me when I needed it most, she whispered. She looked up, smiling through the impossible tears. Yes, Daddy, that's a yes. The transformation was miraculous. Zara moved into the penthouse, an entire floor to herself, but she didn't waste a second. She devoured the private education, studying 12 hours a day, testing into college level in record time. She chose Northwestern, majoring in social policy and business administration, determined to understand the system that had almost crushed her. In class, she was a firebrand. Most of you study poverty as a policy paper, she told her classmates, challenging their sheltered views. I lived it. I'll tell you what the policy actually does. Meanwhile, the Zara Williams Foundation became a national powerhouse. They built state-of-the-art residential facilities, offering not just housing but job training, educational support, and most importantly, stable counseling. They had a 93% success rate in achieving stable housing for participants, breaking generational cycles of poverty with stunning efficiency. Zara, now the organization's face, a summa cum laude graduate, lobbied Congress, appearing on national news, using her powerful, authentic voice to advocate for the forgotten. Her foundation led the charge to change laws in 15 states, extending support for foster children until the age of 20-5.7 years after she signed those papers. The story came full circle. Zara, now 26 and the foundation's confident director, was leaving their newest facility in Chicago. And there, hunched against a brick wall, was a teenage boy, a kid named Marcus. His cardboard sign was heartbreakingly familiar. Zara didn't hesitate. She crossed the street, sat beside him on the wet pavement, and without saying a word she pulled out her phone. She showed him the photo of herself at 19, sitting in that exact position, holding that exact sign. That's you, Marcus asked, disbelief etched onto his hungry face. 7 years ago. My name's Zara. She told him the whole impossible story, the streets, the 2 acts of courage, the adoption, the fund. I'm family now, she corrected him, and that's worth more than money. From her designer purse, she pulled out the same black umbrella Robert Caldwell had given her years ago, worn but sturdy. Would you like a warm meal and a safe place tonight, Marcus? No catch. Just a chance to show your courage in a new way. She helped him up and led him toward her car, toward the facility, toward Hope. Richard, watching from his office window, texted his daughter. Your mother would be proud of the courage you're spreading, Zara replied. Both my mothers would. Daddy, here is the real question. The one that matters. Zara's entire miraculous success, the $500 million foundation, The changed laws. The hundreds of kids saved. It didn't happen because the foster care system suddenly decided to work. It happened because of two isolated, extraordinary acts of selfless courage that happened to put her in the orbit of one man, Richard Caldwell, who had the integrity, the memory, and the immense resources to repay a 12-year-old debt. So, I need to ask you, does this story prove the power of individual decency? Or is it a brutal condemnation of a society that only helps the brave after they've reached absolute rock bottom? If Zara hadn't kicked over that trash can 12 years ago, she would have frozen to death outside that steakhouse. Is that justice? Is that how we build a system that works? Drop your perspective in the comments below. Let us know, is this a powerful fairy tale, or is it a warning? Like this video, subscribe, and share your view on what real courage and real justice looks like in America.